Wavelength.
You know, Adelaide has worked really hard over the last few years to build a small bar reputation. I was a kid, the big night in Adelaide was kind of, staying at home and watching the bill.
Sparking the convos about Adelaide.
As a female Sparky, I did get lots of comments on my gender.
You should be having...
Here to make a difference. Yeah, make the difference. Give the youth a voice.
On Fresh 92.7.
Welcome to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide. You should be having with Zane and David, soon to be joined by Dr. Lane as well, our favourite GP.
The best in the world. It's a big show tonight, but first of all, today everyone's talking about how 2 suspects are currently on the run from police following a shooting in Hindmarsh this morning. Police say one of the suspects are potentially armed still after a 31-year-old was shot in the leg and rushed to hospital just before 11 a.m. Police have put a call out for missing Blackwood man Nicholas Lee, who has not been seen for the past 2 weeks. Authorities are currently looking in Belair National Forest for the 60-year-old, but have encouraged those who may know the whereabouts of Mr. Lee to contact Crime Stoppers on 1-800-333-000. And filming of the blockbuster Mortal Kombat movie began today in Port Adelaide, where around 700 extras and 500 crew transformed the set into an industrial site to look like historic Chicago.
That is so interesting. You were nearly on that set today, weren't you?
Could have been. I don't even know if I'm even allowed to tell anyone. I'm probably going to be blacklisted from the Adelaide film industry forever. But yes, me and my amazing white hair were selected probably to be some sort of ethereal creature on the set of Mortal Kombat.
You definitely have the aesthetic of someone who could be on Mortal Kombat, even down to the way that you dress. Like, there's a real Final Fantasy character kind of vibe about it. Tonight on the show, do you really need to go to the emergency room for that? Dr. Lane joins us live to answer your questions. We report direct from the most fabulous regional festival you have possibly never heard of. And next, from pissing off Splendour in the Grass to running Spin-Off Festival, we give you the inside story on the Adelaide Collective, which has become one of the most powerful forces in Australian music.
Wavelength.
They're responsible for Spin-Off, Line Arts Factory, the local leg of Laneway Festival, the rise of Tkay Maidza, and the list goes on. It's pretty incredible what they've managed to achieve, Zane. Luca sat down with one of the biggest players in the Australian music scene, based right here in Adelaide.
Wavelength.
This week, we've decided to shine light on one of Adelaide's emerging powerhouses in the music industry, 5-4 Entertainment. What started as 2 guys booking bands out of a Hilton apartment is now the engine pushing Adelaide's music industry uphill. I caught up with Managing Director Ross Osman and Event Manager Courtney Duca to have a chat about what life is like in the fast lane.
Well, I guess 5-4 Entertainment is an Adelaide-based company. We work across numerous sort of forms of music, from festivals to venue bookings, touring bands, artist management, and running club nights and parties around the country. We're a like-minded group of young people looking to keep Adelaide at the forefront of the music industry. I guess over the years there's been like an older guard that's kind of been here, and I guess we're part of that new people coming through and trying to do things and make Adelaide a spot that gets live acts.
What were your initial expectations for the company?
I guess there wasn't really any real expectations. We love music, and seeing the bands we love not come here was always a big problem for us. The fact that it's kind of grown so much is far more than what we ever thought it would do. Yeah, well, I guess one of the first things we did when we started the business in May, and the first thing we thought we would do was try and get some Splendour in the Grass sideshows. So we hit up a couple of the bands, Two Door Cinema Club, Foals and Delphic, not really knowing what the right process was for actually booking these bands to get into the country. We helped their agents from the UK. About like a day later, I got a phone call from the person from Splendour in the Grass going, "Hey, I'm the person who runs Splendour in the Grass. Who are you guys and why are you trying to book the bands on our lineup?" Which was quite a daunting thing to kind of happen. I was like, oh my God, this guy really isn't happy with me. Like, obviously done something wrong. And we ended up having a bit of a conversation about the whole what's going on in Adelaide and what are you doing? Who are you? But at the end of it, it seemed like we'd kind of like hit it off a little bit. And that was kind of, I guess, the beginning of the bigger things happening for us with Splendour in the Grass and Secret Sounds being big partners in Spin-Off.
South Australia was once considered the festival state, and our musical reputation took a massive hit when festivals such as Big Day Out, Park Live, Stereosonic, Future Music all pulled their Adelaide leg. What are the main problems our had that's stopping us from being a regular feature on big artist lineup?
Yeah, well, I guess there's kind of 2 questions. I mean, the whole festival bubble bursting, I think Adelaide being a market that probably doesn't have as many people as other places. I guess that bubble sort of popped, and I think also that really opened a gap in the market for us, sort of going, well, now there's not any festivals, maybe we should do something. I think we actually do have a good market for live music, and people do want to go see it, but it's probably the expectations of the promoters from interstate not really understanding the Adelaide market, which is kind of where we come in. We talk to them and go, look, this one will work, but this one won't.
I guess you, especially being in the music industry, we've all heard someone complain that, Adelaide never gets any big artists, but now the 5-4 team have brought us the Wombats, Anderson .Paak, Childish Gambino, Tame Impala, people like Denzel Curry, technically Georgia Smith. What has 5-4 done or are doing to revive our state's love affair with music festivals?
Well, I think we're always out there, always pitching for stuff to come. We'll see the tour posters get announced about Adelaide. We're always there, the first people to call up the agent and go, hey, guys, why are you not coming to Adelaide? Is it a money thing? Is it something that we could buy? Is it marketing the show? We were just at Big Sound last week, and the vibe on Adelaide is actually really quite high. Like, everyone's really impressed that, Adelaide actually sold a music festival 20,000 tickets with Spin-Off, and they're kind of like, what's going on in Adelaide? Adelaide seems to be really happening now.
Have you had any major sort of diva moments or any ridiculous write-ups for any artists?
Yes, there's definitely been a couple. We did have someone once, though, that absolutely nothing they used could touch any plastic. So we had to actually film, everything of theirs getting prepared.
Do you want to name names?
Absolutely not.
Actually, I remember one band that came through, Ed Castle, and they had a really great ride request. It was that we must supply them with a tea towel with local birds of the native area. Thought that was cool. so we did that.
Now, lastly, Drake or Kanye?
Definitely Kanye.
Yeah, Kanye for sure.
All right, and What's So Not or Flume?
Flume, Peachy Boy.
Wavelength.
They are the correct answers to those last two questions.
Absolutely.
Luca sitting down with 5-4 Entertainment for Wavelength, absolute powerhouses of the Australian music scene, really, and definitely in Adelaide. Their footprint is everywhere, from Lion Arts Factory to Laneway Festival to Tkay Maidza and the rise of her success. Spin-Off Festival itself as well is just such a massive success story of theirs.
I know, it's so, we were both there this year, and it was so good to see such a massive festival take off and be so successful here in Adelaide.
Yeah, and to see it grow over the years, because I went to the very first Spin-Off Festival back when it was in Thebby Theatre, and it was good, but to see it become its standalone thing, such a cool setup, such a huge name, such a big brand, it's really, really awesome. What I want to know is who had the plastic thing?
I don't know. Gosh. I mean, they've brought so many acts through to Adelaide, it'd be impossible to guess. I wouldn't know. I have no idea.
Artist writer requests are one of the funniest things. I've heard some other stories. I heard that there's one quite well-known electronic act who requested 4 coconuts just to drink from.
Like, cracked, or did he...
I'm unclear on that.
They wanted to crack into it themselves.
I'm unclear on the crack. I'll need to check back on that. But it's so funny, the kind of things that people will ask for. I like the tea towel request. That's nice. That's wholesome.
I think that's really good, especially if you're not from Australia.
Yeah, exactly. There's a little memento.
Natives.
A bird-related memento.
Wavelength.
Before we gave you the story of 5-4 Entertainment, spoke to their massive success story in Adelaide.
Huge.
And they told us about a few of the really interesting writer requests that they have received over the years, one of which was a request for tea towels featuring local birds.
Someone couldn't touch plastic or something like that?
That was ridiculous.
Very weird.
Producer Jack has sent through a couple of gems, just because he has worked at a number of venues around the place, including one producer who requested a GameCube with 4 controls in Smash Brothers.
Which I think is exactly what I would want, though.
I respect that. And I especially respect that he's chosen the best Smash game still.
I'm not even going to get into that with you right now.
No, that could take up the rest of the show. Sorry, Dr. Lane, you're going to have to wait. I'm talking about Smash Brothers. Another who requested a hand-drawn picture of himself, which I also love.
That is so funny. I think that would just be beautiful. I actually would request that too.
Would it be like one of those caricatures? What kind of art style would you go for?
Caricature, because I reckon I would look hilarious as a caricature.
Just a massive head.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love that.
Speaking of caricatures... Politicians. Wow, got him.
This segue is amazing.
Got him. It's not really that good.
No, I love it. Keep going.
Let's go to Andrew now to tell us what the hell is going on in politics at the moment.
What the hell is going on in politics at the moment? Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Well, it's been a long week in politics, with Victorian MP Gladys Liu coming under fire for alleged former links to the Chinese government. The MP was believed to have membership of some organisations with links to the Chinese Communist Party and allegedly failed to declare it before running for Parliament. Labor reckons she's got questions to answer, although PM Scott Morrison has accused the opposition of trying to smear Chinese Australians. Meanwhile, Government Minister David Littleproud hasn't been able to make up his mind on climate change this week in the wake of the bushfires in Queensland and New South Wales. Though initially saying a number of times he wasn't sure whether man-made climate change is actually a thing, by Thursday he changed his tune, saying he's always accepted the science of the man-made impact on climate change. And finally, former PM and professional troublemaker Tony Abbott's shown his face at a New South Wales anti-abortion rally. A bill to decriminalise abortion is currently before the state parliament, with Mr Abbott saying the bill would allow for, quote, infanticide on demand, while Barnaby Joyce says it's the slavery debate of our time. And that's what the hell's going on in politics this week.
Thank you, Andrew. Do you feel like Andrew starts every segment with, well, it's been a long week?
Yeah, I think it's probably he just has the same script. No, that's harsh.
No, I feel like every week calls for that description.
It does.
And you can just hear the life, like the desire to live, leave his eyes.
Like all we have to do is listen to it. At least we don't have to write it like Andrew does. Andrew has to go deep into the dark world.
He sounds a little bit more deflated every single time he does it, and I might have to organise some support.
You need to take him off the politics run.
Someone else needs to go. It's too dark. I'm so glad we don't have that abortion debate happening in South Australia. It's just awful.
Just you wait. It'll hit us soon, probably, won't it?
Well, no, because New South Wales is the last state to... they're behind.
Oh, okay.
So where everyone else is up to speed, thankfully.
Sorry, my
I believe that's... Actually, I'm not a huge expert on how the law works in South Australia. That's possibly... Write that down. Let's talk about that at the meeting. We might look into that.
Ask Dr. Lane anything. Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Do you really need to go to the emergency room for that? It's a message our health departments are trying to get through to us. Don't clog up our hospital waiting rooms when you could simply go and see your GP.
Our Vave GP joins us live. Dr. Lane, good evening.
Good evening, guys. How you going?
Good. Much better now that you're here. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. You flatter me.
Doing the show just with David is...
Yeah.
It's awful.
Well, and the feeling's mutual. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
The feeling's mutual about doing the show just with me.
Oh.
Let's take this off there. We're hearing a lot of messaging at the moment. It's kind of inescapable, reconsider whether you need to go to an emergency department, whether you need to go to a hospital. Dr. Lane, how bad is the problem of overcrowding in our emergency departments right now?
I think it's very significant. All the data's showing that the emergency rooms are incredibly over I guess, not overstaffed. They're really over capacity. So they're just in particular really at a bit of a crisis point. And part of that's an issue to do with the way in which the emergency departments, I think, have been laid out in South Australia. I don't think that, that can be denied. But the other side of it is people do probably need to be a little bit aware of when it is appropriate to go to an emergency department and when it is a good idea not to. So I think it's a good topic to be chatting about, actually.
Well, is there actually a general rule for helping to decide between going to the hospital emergency department and just seeing your GP when you get a moment?
It's a hard one. It's not really a general rule of thumb, but I guess that comes down to, do you think this is something that potentially could be life-threatening? Is it something that you think can wait till morning? Some people will go to the emergency department because they think, oh, well, if I go there, I can sort of get free GP advice and I won't have to wait and I won't have to pay. And that's not very common, but it's not a good attitude to have for a couple of reasons. You might actually be turned away, and you may actually find that you wait for hours and you end up being disappointed because a lot of the emergency departments are not well equipped to do general practice like things. I remember when I was working in emergency years ago, and a gentleman came in one night and he said, oh, look, it's nothing urgent. It's just that I've been struggling to get an appointment to get my ears flushed and I've got wax in my ears. And we didn't even have the time or the proper equipment at that time to do that. So we had to just sort of say to him, sorry, you'll need to go and see your GP.
Yeah. Gosh.
That is so strange.
Yeah.
Now, there are some things where it is obvious you should go to the hospital. You've got a broken arm, for example.
Yeah.
But what if it is something that you actually can't quite place? It might be just a pain in your stomach or in your arm or something. how long would you recommend leaving an issue before you take it to a hospital?
Well, I guess it comes down to can you get it under control is the first thing. So a lot of people will come in to see somebody and say, I've got pain. And one of the first things we'll ask is, have you tried something like Panadol? And it's often not uncommon that people say, no, I haven't. So I think it's really good to try something like that first.
Yeah.
You know, with a lot of the viral things in particular, you will often find that you start to feel quite sick over a couple of hours. So if you've got a flu, if you've got a gastro bug, if you've got a cold, people will start to feel pretty rotten within a few hours. So that's not unusual. And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go to the emergency department. But that's very different to say, waking up in the middle of the night, having this severe abdominal pain, starting to vomit, not being able to bear it, pain sort of 8, 9 out of 10, you can't stop vomiting. I think it comes with a little bit of discretion. You know, something like that could actually be something quite dangerous. And I think most people would know straight away from the level of pain that they're in that they need to get help pretty much straight away.
Wavelength.
Chatting about whether you need to go to the emergency room for that or not. Dr. Lane, thank you once again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Having some very interesting convos over the break of various different experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been chatting a lot tonight about situations where people might go to the emergency department, but they actually should have gone to the GP. What I want to ask you, Dr. Lane, is have you ever had the opposite happen? Have you had someone come into your office and they definitely just should have gone straight to the hospital?
Yeah, all the time. It's funny, you do. You get both extremes, don't you? I was just saying, actually, I think actually my mother's the worst, and it's not even coming into the office. She rings me, and it will just be, I love just wondering, I can't feel the left side of my body. Is that bad? And you just sort of like, what? What are you doing? Oh, no, it's fine. She says, I've just had a bit of chest pain for 3 days. You're just like, oh God.
My
she's
goodness.
a shocker. And if she's listening, yes, you should be ashamed of yourself. But
my dad is also a shocker. I was complaining about this during the break. Dad, if you're listening, you need to get better at this. Was getting like blood pressure readings with a 2 in front of the number, which is never... good.
No.
That's like imminent death. And he was like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
No worries at all.
So in talking about whether or not you should go to your GP or go to a hospital, what if the problem is more of a mental health situation?
Yeah,
what do you do then?
Well, this is so important. And I think, look, mental health situations can be really urgent and require an urgent response. Emergency departments are sometimes the right place, but a lot of the time they're not. For a couple of reasons. Sometimes the situation in which the mental health condition presents, the emergency department by its very nature will actually be a lot more distressing for somebody in that crisis than somewhere else. So there's some very good options for people in a mental health crisis that they can call. And in Australia, in South Australia, we've got a number 131465, which is mental health triage, and it's a bit like the 000 of mental health. But when you ring that number, you get a trained mental health professional on the other end of the line who can look up mental health history if there is any, and that's on a sort of centralised hospital database. So for people who are under long-term care, there's good options. I think it's really important, mental health is something to take very seriously.
Sorry. Shush.
And with that, yeah, there you go. So,
I forgot to pen the pause. I did a Johnny.
No, that's all right. I was just thinking, why did you pick that music for then?
Yeah, we're just suddenly going to really, really rave.
Okay. So,
anyway.
Well done. So, no, look, I mean, I think with any of these things, there is always numbers you can call, because apart from mental health triage, there's also the Health Direct number, which, is a government number. Now, people have given various responses of how useful they've found that, but if you call that 24 hours a day and just get some on-the-phone advice, they at least can tell you, yeah, this sounds like something you should be going to emergency or something you should stay at home.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Dr. Lane.
Thank you, Dr. Lane. We do have a couple of texts, though. Do you want to go through those, Zane?
Yes, I would like to.
Yeah, so we got Scott from Morford Vale.
Yep.
He texted in saying, if I break a finger or something small, can a GP take care of that?
We do take care of broken fingers quite a lot. And look, if it's something, again, that if you can manage the pain and you can sort of keep it at home, that's something that you probably can follow up the following day. If you go to the emergency department, yes, they might x-ray it, they might strap it, and they're likely, even if it requires a follow-up, to tell you to go to see the GP to get a referral. So, absolutely. I mean, as a general rule, little breaks like toes and fingers and that might be okay to wait. Again, it really comes down to how serious the pain is, whether you can get it under control and where you've broken.
Can you make it worse, though, if you try to take care of it at home and don't do it properly?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I guess it depends what you're trying to do. If you go home and try to play the piano and have a few drinks or something, you might not do a great job. But if you, most people who've broken something like a finger won't want to move it anyway, so just using a bit of common sense would be okay. I mean, I guess it really depends a little bit on the situation. If it's a dislocated finger, that's kind of a different story again.
Beautiful.
Fair enough. We also got one from Mel from Paraka. My GP gets really busy and I often can't get in on short notice. So what do I do if I'm not supposed to go to the hospital?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a hard one, isn't it? Look, some GP surgeries do offer walk-ins, so I would probably look around the area and see what other options are there. Not saying to move GP, but maybe if you can't get in with your regular GP, there's always GPs on the day that have appointments in Adelaide. And in fact, there's a few websites like Hot Docs and stuff where you can actually go on and see what practices in which suburbs have GP appointments available.
Oh, that's really awesome.
Hot Docs sounds like a dating website for doctors.
Yeah.
I've never been told that, but if it is, I'm going to get on it. No. Can't say that. No. Yeah.
That is very good to know, though. And I feel like that's kind of like a central kind of issue here. It's, my GP is like that too. It's really, really hard to get in. Sometimes I have to be thinking a week in advance. Yeah. Whereas, hospital waiting rooms are so rammed that
that's right.
There's hours long wait anyway. And a lot of the walk-ins, I go to the Norwood walk-in a lot, and unless you're first thing in the morning, you're there waiting for
that's right.
a solid amount of time.
And bearing in mind, because a lot of these you do need to prioritise. So if somebody's come in and said, I've got a bit of a runny nose, and you give them some tissues, and then you've got somebody who comes in who can't breathe, no matter how long the person with the runny nose has been waiting, you're always going to take the person who can't breathe first.
Well, yes.
And so in a busy emergency department, I think somebody came in... I can't believe I'm telling you this on air. Somebody once came in and said they had an itchy bum. That was the thing that they came in at about 4 in the morning. I was like,
4 a.m.
I don't know.
Right.
4 a.m.
Take a worming tablet.
Yeah, go to Chemist Warehouse in the morning and just get a worming tablet. Come on.
Wavelength.
We've had a very fun show tonight.
It's been very fun, hasn't it?
The last few weeks have been incredible shows, but also quite heavy topics with a lot to unpack, and
they've weighed us down, and this week we've been liberated from the shackles of controversy.
It's nice to talk about music and weird body medical things. And now we're going to talk about a bit of drag. So every year for the anniversary of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, one of Australia's most fabulous festivals goes down at Broken Hill. One of our reporters, Adrian, went along to the incredible name, by the way, Broken Hill Festival, to check out this celebration of drag, disco, and the desert.
Wavelength.
The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert turned 25 years old this year, and to celebrate it, Broken Hill in New South Wales threw its 5th annual Broken Hill Festival. Glitter, sequins, and feather boas took over the streets of the outback, and people from all over Australia gathered for it. We asked them why this event was so special.
I love that it's such a beautiful display of all types of people coming together just to have a really good time in a safe place and listen to some great music.
It's really good. I did not know what to expect from coming to such a country place, and especially a drag queen festival. You worry that there's going to be an element of shadiness, but everyone's very friendly.
I'm not really a festival person, but this has such a great, amazing, very special mixture of country hospitality, Australiana, and modern queerness. It's really awesome.
How do you think the locals feel about this event?
Well, I mean, judging by this, they clearly love it. Everyone's come out here today to see the parade and enjoy the drag queens and have a good time with the family.
Hopefully they see the pink dollar as something to continue to strive to attract.
It's just great for visibility, I think. That's the main thing.
I think they love this as much as we do. They get so involved. They bring out the gay in Broken Hill.
What has been your highlight so far?
The Freddie Mercury impersonator. Absolutely incredible performance.
It's so awesome to see so many people working awesome looks.
The town actually seems to have this really low barrier between what's the festival and what's just the town, and it's really nice because it feels like you're welcomed immediately. It's not like you just have to put the wristband on and then go to Broken Hill. You're there.
Would you be coming here next year?
Absolutely. It's such a great laugh and a fantastic way to spend the weekend.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Broken Hill locals, for having us.
Wavelength.
Adrian reporting, live isn't the word, but direct from Broken Hill Festival, which went down over the weekend in Broken Hill, of course.
Broken Hill Festival in Broken Hill. Best name for a festival, isn't it?
Fantastic name.
I'd love to go one year.
Huge celebration, I guess, of the anniversary of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and most of the shows take place at the Palace Hotel, which had some pretty important scenes in that movie as well.
Right.
Have you watched that movie?
Not for a number of years, but it is a very good movie. So
I only watched it for the first time recently.
Yeah.
Here we go, threading everything that this show is in one go. I got my wisdom teeth removed last year. And then watched it while, not at the hospital, but when I went home and I was under the influence of some mild painkillers.
Right.
And all I could really do was watch movies and eat pumpkin soup.
Yeah.
And I watched Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and it was so strange, but really funny. Very Australian.
So Australian, and it's just, it's so good to, that is even a thing that we have as one of our major films.
Cultural touch points. I know.
So good.
That brings us to the end of tonight's show. Thank you so much for listening. We are going to get stuck into the come up next. Make sure you subscribe as well to the Wavelength podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or any other app you use to get your podcasts. You can listen back to our last couple of episodes, and you'll be the first to know when tonight's episode goes online.
Wavelength.